Friday, March 7th. This is the best football show. I'm Baldy at Brian Baldinger at Baldy NFL, all the social media platforms. I'm excited. Right behind me up on that whiteboard are 40 defensive linemen that I've been studying over the last few days, along with all the top players in this league. So I'm just grinding away in the film room. I'm having a good time entertaining myself. Well, here we are. It's Friday, March 7th. Oh, by the way, you can watch this daily show pretty much. Just download a free Odyssey app, like it, subscribe to it, tell your friends about it. Let's try to grow this audience here because we are in full swing right now with this off season. Last week at this time, we were at the Combine. A month ago today, we were all in New Orleans getting ready for Super Bowl. But here we are. Like, we're right in the thick of this off season. And this coming Monday and Tuesday, I'll be on the NFL Network from 2 to 6 Eastern. Is what we call the legal tampering period. This is before free agency actually begins on Wednesday, March 12th, which basically kicks off the NFL's new year, all right, March 12th. But we've got 2 days of legal tampering, and we've already begun a lot of things that are going on. Players are getting released. Players are getting signed. Teams are jettisoning players. I mean, everybody's sort of positioning themselves right now because, let's face it, we have free agency, okay, which begins March 12th, next Wednesday. Money is going to fly out. Chicago's got money. Washington's got money. A lot of teams have money right now. And then we have, I think it's 48 days from today is the NFL draft in Green Bay. So teams get a chance to really rebuild their teams over these next 7 weeks. And it's important because if you look at, say the Washington Commanders, I mean, they hit in the draft, obviously, with Jaden Daniels, but they hit in free agency big time. I mean, Bobby Wagner just got re-signed. Frankie Louvu was an impactful player for them. Dante Fowler led them in sacks a year ago. Zach Ertz became a real threat at tight end. Austin Eckler gave him a good season. Nick Bellore led the National Football League in special team tackles. All right. I mean, they rebuilt their team in 1 year. They went from being a doormat to going to the NFC Championship game with the Philadelphia Eagles. You can rebuild your team if you make the right moves. So anyways, the legal tampering period, it should be fun. A lot of, Philadelphia just released Darius Slay, releasing, Josh Sweat is going to be a free agent. Milton Williams is going to be a free agent. They're probably going to leave Philadelphia. We'll see how Philadelphia, what they do, because nobody was better in free agency. They just re-signed Zach Bond to a 3-year, $51 million contract, $34 million guaranteed. They found the middle linebacker for the next 3 years. Started 20 games for him this year. Unbelievable player. Just in the postseason alone, he put up 32 tackles, 2 interceptions, a forced fumble, a fumble recovery, tackle for losses. He filled up the stat sheet. So, legal tampering period. Who's going to fix their team? Remember last year after free agency and really after the offseason, we said, what in the hell were the Dallas Cowboys thinking and what were they doing? We saw Philadelphia and Washington just put a huge distance between them and Dallas. We all criticized Dallas for not doing anything, signing a long snapper and signing a linebacker and letting, key players walk. Now they lose Zach Martin this year to retirement. Dallas has to get in the game. They had won 12 games in a row, 3 years in a row. All right. They had been drafting well. They had done a lot of good things, and then they fell off the cliff last year. So that's free agency. That's the beginning of the new year. Now, there's a lot of players that are now on the market. And let's just look at a trio of players, just 3. Okay, DK Metcalf. Okay, is now a free agent. All right, he can go sign with any team. Well, not technically. He has been asked to be released from Seattle. Seattle seems to be okay with that, as they also released Tyler Lockett. At one point, we thought Jackson Smith and Jigba, Tyler Lockett, DK Metcalf as good a trio of receivers as they're in football. But there's a new way of doing things, a new offense coordinator, new direction. DK wants out. He wants to go compete. Now, you can already line up the teams that would be interested. I mean, why wouldn't the Patriots be interested in DK Metcalf to go with Drake May? Why wouldn't the Rams be interested if they move on from Cooper Kupp and have a deep threat to go with Puka? Why wouldn't the Cardinals to have a threat like that opposite Marvin Harrison Jr.? Why wouldn't the 49ers be interested in DK with Debo Samuel moving on in free age, with traded to Washington, and maybe Ayuk not healthy? Why wouldn't you want that big X receiver in that offense? Why wouldn't the Los Angeles Chargers with Justin Herbert's arm, where Jim Harbaugh has just come out and said that Justin Herbert is the best quarterback in this league and the best quarterback he's ever seen? Why wouldn't they go out and say, to heck with Quentin Johnston, who we didn't draft. Let's go get DK Metcalf to go with Ladd McConkey, Will Dissly, maybe a new running back, maybe a new offensive guard, and go put this offense on notice that Justin Herbert now has threats everywhere on the field at every level. You can just go through all the teams. Now, Cincinnati, they're trying to, get their star wide receiver and Jamar Chase signed. They've got Joe Burrow locked up, one of the highest paid players in the league. They just franchise tagged T. Higgins. And now they've just told Trey Hendrickson, who they don't believe they can sign, even though he's under contract for this year, 2025. But Trey Hendrickson, only T.J. Watt over the last 5 years in this league has more sacks than Trey Hendrickson. He's got 35 in the last 2 years. He's got over 70 over the last 5 years. And he didn't have any help around him. So if you want to go fix your pass rush, and there's a lot of teams out there that got to do it, including San Francisco, if you feel like you're a great pass rusher away from possibly competing, why wouldn't you go get Trey Hendrickson? First of all, the guy starts every game. He doesn't miss games. Going back to New Orleans, Cincinnati right now, last 5 years, he lines up and plays just about every game. So you got a durable player and a productive player. And I broke down all of his pass rush moves yesterday. I mean, he's got great takeoff. He understands the depth of a quarterback and not to get deeper. He can throw a quick hook. He can turn the corner with bend about as well as anybody in this band. I mean, he's not Myles Garrett like that, but he can bend and turn the corner. I mean, he's a legitimate big-time pass rusher. Everybody's looking for three. 2 guys on the edge and 1 guy in the middle. So you could just go through these teams. You're going to have to pay. It's going to cost a lot, but Cincinnati might say, you know what, we'll take the compensation. He was a free agent 4 years ago. It was a great signing by Cincinnati. They went to a Super Bowl with Trey Hendrickson. Came within whiskers of winning a Super Bowl. So that's that. And then really the number one linchpin right now in this whole quarterback carousel is Sam Darnold. And what is Minnesota to do? Because Minnesota, it's been reported by a legion of reporters and quality reporters about all the different options Minnesota has. Could they franchise him? I don't think they will. Could they sign him to a short contract, without top money? And would he take it? Would he take a 2-year, $30 million a year deal? Like, all these things are being reported. And then maybe maybe there's another thing to do with him. But he's the number one player right now with all the teams that need quarterback, including the Giants, the Steelers, the Raiders, on and on and on. Like, he's might be the number one option for any of those teams I just mentioned and others. So Minnesota and what they do with Sam over this weekend is going to dictate a lot what happens to Aaron Rodgers and a lot of what happens in the draft. Because if the Giants can't get Sam Darnold, and I'm sure they're interested, just like they were deadly interested in Matt Stafford until last Friday when the Rams, secured him for the next couple of years. I mean, they need a quarterback right now. Tommy DeVito is the only quarterback on the roster. So if they can't get Sam Darnold because Minnesota locks him up or somebody else takes him, then they've got to get a quarterback in the draft. And they're picking at 3, but if they wait at 3 for maybe, say, Cam Ward, he's going to be gone. So then the Giants have to figure out how to maybe trade up from 3 to 1 to make sure they get the quarterback. These are all the decisions, and there's tons of them that have to get made. Now, let's keep moving on here because Joey Bosa was released. Now, I see Joey and Nick Bosa working out in Fort Lauderdale at a particular park in June and July this past year. I don't know that two guys work any harder at conditioning, being in shape, getting themselves prepared for a season than Nick and Joey. I could just tell you by my own eyes, like they are workers. Now, Joey has been injured a bunch. He's missed a lot of time. It has frustrated him. It's frustrated his whole family. There's no question about it. But he's still a good player. Now, you have to factor in the injuries. He just finished his 9th year. He's not a spring chicken, all that stuff. But he can still play. And it's still a premium position. So, he's thankful for his 9 years with the Chargers. He's had really good seasons. He's put up good numbers. He's been a Pro Bowl player. A little bit of a gamble. But if you get Joey Bosa healthy, like he's going to be productive. So, that's that. Now, the other big-time player that might be out there is Myles Garrett. So, let's just say if you're Andrew Berry, the general manager of the Cleveland Browns, and your team needs a quarterback, needs a lot of help, okay? Things, Nick Chubb, I don't know what he is right now, coming back from that awful knee injury. Maybe he regains his form. You got your star back. You still got key pieces of the offensive line that are there. But it looks like they're a long ways away from competing with Baltimore for that division title. Maybe I'm wrong. They don't have an offense that looks like Cincinnati's offense. Maybe I'm wrong. But if you're Andrew Berry and Myles Garrett doesn't want to be there, do you want a prisoner? And I use that term loosely. But do you want a guy that doesn't want to be there? Against, like, he's just put up 14-plus sacks 4 years in a row, the only NFL player in history to do that. He's in the prime of his career. I think he's 28 years old. Like, you have to at least have the conversation with other teams about what you might be able to acquire with Myles Garrett. Like, let's just say, number 2, they get their quarterback. All right? Let's just say it's Cam or Shedeur, whoever. Maybe they get their quarterback, and he's the right guy as, if they eventually move on from Deshaun Watson. Man, you're going to have to rebuild your defense anyways. You've already lost a lot of pieces. Like, this is the draft to rebuild your defensive line. And so if you can get 2 first-round picks or more, or 2 first-round picks, other picks, and a player, you could rebuild your defense line. And all you got to do is just look what the Los Angeles Rams have done the last 2 years. Last year, Jared Verse, Braden Fisk in the first 2 rounds. The year before, Kobe Turner, who's got 16 sacks the last 2 years, and Byron Young. They've drafted 4 defensive linemen in the last 2 years using 2 third-round picks, a second-round pick, and a first-round pick. And their defensive line is deep and it's talented right now. You could do that in this draft if you're Cleveland. You should be interested, in listening to what other teams say. Look, Myles Garrett's a generational player. There's no question about it. You don't want those guys to walk. But maybe this is the year. You say, get the most you can for Myles Garrett and go get young players out of this draft. Abdul Carter, just go through the list of these guys right now of what you could do at the very top. You're looking at, Mason Graham, Abdul Carter. You're looking at, Michael Williams, Jalen Walker. Like, there's so many good players that could get to the quarterback in this draft that I think are going to be good players. I don't know what Cleveland's going to do. I'm not reporting any of this. I'm just saying they should have the conversation. Now, this is a live broadcast. I'm taking all your questions as we keep moving through some of these topics. What I've been seeing from my film study. In fact, Extra Medium just chimes in here. Should the Eagles go defensive tackle at 32 or sign a free agent? And should they trade for Myles Garrett? Okay, well, yeah, I think they should trade for Myles Garrett. They're going to lose Josh Sweat. I mean, I don't know what it would take. They got the 32nd pick. That's not going to get Myles Garrett. Could you get next year's number 1 pick and this year's 32 pick and say Bryce Huff, who doesn't fit the scheme, and maybe another player? I don't know. I don't think that's going to float Cleveland's boat. I think you need more than that. So the price might be heavy. I mean, just think about it. They got Nolan Smith with the 30th pick 2 years ago. In the last 10 weeks of the season, he was as good as anybody coming off the edge in the game. So they've got young talent there. Jalen Hunt played a good role in the Super Bowl, their 3rd-round pick a year ago. But they should talk. I mean, Andrew Berry came from the Philadelphia Eagles. He's got a relationship with Howie Roseman. They should talk and just see what it would take. Should the Eagles go defensive tackle at 32? Well, I mean, I'll give you a guy at 32 who I studied last night, who I think might be there at 32, but he fits with what the Eagles are doing. And that's Alfred Collins from Texas. Now, he didn't start until this year. But remember, last year they had Devondre Sweat and Byron Murphy, right? Not Byron Murphy. Byron, whatever. I went to Seattle. First defensive tackle taken. So, he didn't get – so he got a chance to play this year. I mean, he's 6'5". He's 332 pounds. And he's got some wiggle to him. Now, they've got Jordan Davis, and people think I'm down on Jordan Davis. I'm not down on Jordan Davis. I recognize the talent that Jordan has. I've talked to Jordan's agent. Like, he needs to stay on the field more. He played 13 snaps in the Super Bowl. All right. 13 snaps isn't getting it done. He's a limited player because of his – and I believe it's mental. I don't believe it's physical. I think he's got better conditioning than he shows. But he's got to show Clint Hurt, the defensive line coach, and Vic Fangio, that he's worthy of staying on the field longer and impacting 3rd downs in the passing game more than he's shown. But they're going to need a defense tackle. They're going to lose Milton Williams. They've got Moro Ojomo, who played really well last year in rotation. But if Jordan Davis doesn't play a higher percentage of snaps, they need a tackle. I'm just saying, look at Alfred Collins. Look at, I don't think, look at Cameron Jackson from Florida. They've got tremendous size. Now, anybody that you play inside opposite of Jalen Carter is going to get one-on-one opportunities. Jalen's going to get most of the double teams in pass protection, whether they're sliding the line, the center guard, running back chip, full slide with tackle guard, whatever it is, he's going to get the double teams. So the guy like Milton Williams this year, you're going to get a lot of one-on-ones. And so whoever plays next to him is going to get an opportunity to be a productive player right away. Now, let me go deeper into the draft, because 2 of my favorite players in this draft, maybe my 2 favorite players in this draft, are Ashton Jeanty and Tyler Warren. So let's look at Ashton Jeanty, the running back. I just did a piece on the NFL Network with him yesterday. He was in Indianapolis. I saw him. He's got the biggest biceps on a running back I've ever seen. He's just muscle on top of muscle. He is big and thick, 5'8.5", 212 pounds, and powerful. And when you watch him, I watched the last 2 years, over 400 snaps. Honestly, he's Steph Curry with the basketball in his hands. You don't know what you're going to see. I mean, unbelievable power, incredible power, unbelievable vision, breakaway speed, catches the ball well out of the backfield. There's really nothing that you want from your running back that he can't do. He looks like a more powerful, faster Josh Jacobs to me. And Josh Jacobs has won the rushing title, had a great year in Green Bay this year. But he is a dynamic player. Now, the other guy that you have to look at is Tyler Warren. I watched every snap of Tyler Warren, every meaningful snap where he was the target of every pass over the last 2 years. This year, they put the Wildcat package in for him. I didn't see it in 2023. Maybe they did it, but I didn't see it. But 2024, they put the Wildcat in for Tyler Warren. He's 6'6" and change. He's 265 pounds. I'm going to be at his pro day March 28th in State College. I'd be surprised if he doesn't run better than 4.7, just watching him on tape. He looks faster than 4.7. But regardless, if he's in the 4.6s or better, this guy is an incredible talent. First of all, he can throw the ball, and he's a left-handed thrower. So you put him in the Wildcat, you got to respect his ability to throw the ball. Now, he's not Tua Tagovailoa throwing the ball left-handed, but he can throw it. So you have to honor it. He literally jumps. If they outlaw the tush push, he could be the answer to the tush push day one. Like his ability just to levitate and go over the top of defensive lines. Like he's a bigger, stronger, and maybe faster Josh Allen in that position. So short yardage, goal line, you put him in. Let him just go do his thing. He can run every route that you want for a tight end. I was a tight end back in college. I mean, all the tight end routes, shallow cross, corners, tight end delays, drag routes, anything coming out of the backfield, like seam routes, tight end dumps, Y sticks. Like you could put the 10 passing routes of any tight end that you've watched in for Tyler Warren. He runs all the routes. All right, there's a million ways of getting him the ball, including this Wildcat package. He is a lot of fun to watch, and I can't wait to see what his pro day looks like, how he competes. There's going to be a lot of teams. And I know you generally don't want to take tight ends in the top 10, but it has not worked out for Kyle Pitts, the last one to do it. But it has worked out in some cases. But I think he's going to be a top 10 pick. It's just too many ways to use him, too many different ways that you can get production from him. Now, the easy comp is Gronk. I don't want to put anybody in Gronk's category. He was just a beast. But he does block really well, too. He is a true wide tight end. So those two players are really two of my favorite players in this whole draft that I enjoy studying. C-Dub just chimes in with this question. What guy in free agency on the defensive side should the Cowboys look at? Well, they just re-signed Odighizuwa, which is good. He's an important player. But right now in free agency, there's some safeties. Like Javon Holland is a safety. Now, they've got a couple of guys that can line up back there. But I mean, I would look at Javon Holland. I just think that guy in the back end of every defense is a guy that you have to look at. Is Frankie Louvu available? I'm not sure. I don't know what his contract situation is. I thought he signed a 1-year deal with Washington last year. That guy has got juice, real juice. He had 8 sacks. The guy could cover. The guy he's got quick twitch. I would look at that. They might lose Tank Lawrence in free agency. So you better find another edge rusher. I mean, they lost Dante Fowler to Washington in free agency last year. Would they sign Dante Fowler back? Or Dorrance Armstrong, who both of them had good years in Washington? They bring him back into the fold? The Cowboys should, if somehow Ashton Jeanty is there at number 12 and they don't take him, they're crazy. Now, let's just say Ashton Jeanty, because quarterbacks get pushed up. And the edge rushers and some of these defensive players are tantalizing. Let's just say Ashton Jeanty is available at 8. Let's just say that Dallas should move up and make sure that nobody else, because I think you're going to have to trade from 12 to get Genty. But I played for the Dallas Cowboys back when I was a rookie, and I know the history of that organization really well. You go back to Walt Garrison, Dan Reeves, Tony Dorsett, Emmitt Smith, Zeke Elliott. They have always had great running backs. And I'm not saying Rico Dowdle, who had a very, very, very good and productive second half of the season last year. Dallas should be in the running back market. Like, I feel like Ashton Genty is going to help any quarterback and any team that he goes to because of the volume of carries, the style of player that he is, and the production you're going to get from him. Like, I'd be surprised. I think Zeke had, do you have 15 or 1,600 yards his rookie year? Like, he hit the ground running. Was he the fourth pick in the draft? Like, to me, this is maybe as close a running back as I've seen to come out since Zeke. Now, I know McCaffrey came out in 2000 the next year, and Leonard Fournette. I know it was a good class, Kamara. This guy looks better than all those guys coming out. Now, obviously, McCaffrey's had some monster years with San Francisco and one great year with Carolina. But he looks like maybe the best back I've seen coming out since Zeke Elliott. I mean, that's saying a lot, but I think that's just how talented he is. So, Bahamas homie, all right, Bahamas homie, asked this question. What might happen to the veteran quarterbacks like Cousins, Rodgers, and Russell? Well, they're all going to move teams. I mean, Kirk Cousins will be out of Atlanta. Michael Penix Jr. is their quarterback. So, Kirk, you could get Kirk cheap. Russell Wilson, I don't believe will be re-signed by Pittsburgh. You could get Russell pretty cheap. Now, he played for $1 million in Pittsburgh last year, plus what Denver owed him. But you could get Russell, and you could get Aaron Rodgers probably pretty cheap. Now, those three guys you should talk to. They can still play at some level, but all of them are beyond their prime. So what are your expectations? If they go to a bad team, let's just say Aaron Rodgers goes to the Giants. They need a quarterback. His home is actually closer to the Giants facility than it was to the Jets in Florham Park. Like, let's just say he goes to the Giants. He wants to play. He gets with, Brian Dable, and they start there's Malik Neighbors, and they go get Travis Hunter, and they figure out this offensive line once and for all. Okay, you can make a case that the Giants could be improved, and Aaron back in MetLife Stadium could be a factor. But are they going to, with Aaron, are they going to be better than Washington or Philadelphia in that division? Are they a playoff team? Does Aaron want to take a chance that they could put a good offensive line together, something they have been unable to do over a bunch of coaches and GMs regimes? It's been a while. I don't know. Where does Russell Wilson fit at this point in his career? He wasn't good the last 5 weeks in Pittsburgh. They couldn't win a game. I mean, it was just check down. If you watch his games, I mean, he was just a check down quarterback. Occasionally a go route to George Pickens. But it was not a dynamic offense. And he wasn't very good. And I'm not here to trash any of these guys. I'm just looking at, I saw Kirk Cousins week 15 in Minnesota. He wasn't good. They should have put Michael Penix Jr. in there sooner. Anyways, I think there's a landing spot for all three players. I just don't know what you're going to get. Like, I don't know that they can elevate any team they would go to and get them to the playoffs the way, say, Sam Darnold got Minnesota to the playoffs last year. Highly responsible for it. Big Mike's asked, who could I see the Bears going for in free agency? Well, they just made a huge splash. All right. Obviously, they just signed 2 offensive guards to try to protect, but, there's some edge rushers out there that make a lot of sense. Like, if I was Chicago, I would be interested in Trey Hendrickson. Now, I don't know what the compensation is for Trey Hendrickson. I know it's not a first-round pick. They might be doing Cincinnati a favor by taking him off the books, even though he's got a year left on his deal. But Trey Hendrickson, you put him opposite Montez Sweat, like you might be talking about something now. You might be that makes a lot of sense. There's some good safeties out there. Like I said, Javon Holland, like that would make a lot of sense. We'll see what Jaquan Brisker got hurt last year, what he looks like. Secondary played pretty well for Chicago a year ago. But I would be very interested in Milton Williams from Philadelphia. You can imagine right now and I would be interested in Ronnie Stanley, quite honestly, at left tackle. I mean, if you put Ronnie Stanley at left tackle the way he played in Baltimore last year, all right, and you add those two guards, okay, and then you somehow could pry Trey Hendrickson from Cincinnati and sign Milt Williams, you've just addressed your trenches to go compete with Minnesota, Green Bay, and Detroit in that division. Quarterback probably gets a whole lot better, and then you hit the draft and go get yourself, a couple of studs on offense. That's a lot of money, but and that's probably giving up a lot of draft capital, but you're getting proven players. That's something. I mean, I'm just throwing names out there, but look, you just got two guards. And Matt Pryor played right guard for the most part last year. I'm friends with Matt. I was happy to see him play, but he's a backup player. So you go get Jonah Jackson. You go get yourself, an all-pro guard from Kansas City. That's a pretty good start in free agency. All right. Anyways, that's been the Best Football Show here, a live edition. I'll be joining you a bunch next week. Like I said, I'll be on the NFL Network from 2 to 6 on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday next week, talking free agency, talking about what teams are doing, and who goes and tries to fix their team this offseason the way Washington did a year ago. All right. Thanks for joining me, everybody. It's been the Best Football Show. I'm Baldy. Look forward to talking to you next week. Have a great weekend, everybody.